The desperate call. The crystalline walls of mining station Theta 9 trembled under another barrage of plasma fire. Commander Vex pressed her elongated fingers against the observation window, watching as another transport vessel exploded in the darkness beyond. The Marauders had been attacking for 3 cycles now, systematically destroying every ship that tried to escape or arrive with supplies. Her species, the Zephyrians, had evolved as peaceful miners and traders. Their delicate frames and enhanced sensory organs made them perfect for detecting rare minerals in asteroid fields, but utterly helpless against military aggression. Lieutenant Kree floated into the command center, his translucent wings drooping with exhaustion. The low gravity of the station barely registered on his lightweight bones as he moved. His voice carried the musical tones typical of their species when he spoke. "Commander, the shield generators are failing. We have perhaps 6 hours before complete system collapse. The evacuation pods were destroyed in the last attack. We have nowhere to run." Vex turned from the window, her large compound eyes reflecting the emergency lights that bathed the station in amber warnings. The weight of 8,000 lives pressed upon her narrow shoulders. Miners, their families, children who had never known violence, all trapped in this metal tomb floating in the void. She had one option left, one terrible choice that every civilized species in the galaxy feared to make. The emergency beacon. The one that transmitted on the forbidden frequency, the one that reached into the darkest corner of the galactic arm, where the Deathworlders dwelt. Every species knew about them through whispered stories and archived warnings. They came from a planet so hostile that survival itself was considered impossible by galactic standards. Gravity that would crush most beings. An atmosphere filled with corrosive oxygen, predators that hunted in packs, natural disasters that could wipe out entire continents. Yet somehow, impossibly, a species had not just survived there but conquered it entirely. Humans, they called themselves. From a world they named Earth. Kree's wings fluttered nervously as he understood what his commander was considering. The archives warn against contacting them. They have weapons that crack moons. They wage war for entertainment. They consume poisons for pleasure. They might be worse than the Marauders. Vex moved to the emergency console, her decision crystallizing as another explosion rocked the station. "If we do nothing, we die in 6 hours. If we call them and they are hostile, we still die. But if the stories of their strange honor codes are true, if they really do respond to distress calls, then perhaps we have a chance." She inserted her command key and activated the forbidden frequency. The message was simple, sent in every known language including the harsh, guttural sounds of the human tongue that their computers had managed to decode. "This is mining station Theta 9. 8,000 civilian lives in immediate danger. Hostile forces attacking. Our defenses have failed. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. We need someone who knows how to fight." The transmission went out into the void, racing toward a sector of space that most civilized species avoided entirely. They waited in tense silence, watching their failing shields flicker and spark. The Marauder fleet of 15 vessels continued their bombardment, confident in their victory. They had conquered dozens of mining stations just like this one, taking resources and slaves with impunity. 3 hours passed, then 4. The shields were down to their last reserves when the sensors detected something impossible. 37 vessels had appeared at the edge of the system. Having traveled a distance that should have taken weeks in mere hours, they moved in perfect formation, each ship bristling with more weapons than a Zephyrian could count. The lead vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest Marauder cruiser. The communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was feminine, but carried an edge of steel that made every Zephyrian in the command center instinctively step back. "Mining Station Theta 9. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force aboard the TRS Prometheus. We received your distress call. Hostile vessels have been identified and targeted. We strongly recommend you evacuate all personnel to the center of your station and away from any windows. Things are about to get very loud." Vex grabbed the communication console with trembling hands. "Captain Chen, there are 15 Marauder vessels. They have been ravaging this sector for cycles. Their shields are considered impenetrable by conventional weapons." Chen's response carried what Vex would later learn was amusement. "Commander, I appreciate the tactical data, but we've handled worse. My fleet practices war games against simulated forces 5 times this size. Please follow evacuation protocols. Prometheus out." The human fleet accelerated toward the Marauders at speeds that defied physics as the Zephyrians understood it. The Marauder commander, a brutal creature named Torax, sent a message to the approaching vessels. His voice was full of confidence born from 100 successful raids. Unknown vessels, this is Marauder Fleet Commander Torax. You are outnumbered and entering our operational zone. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The response came not in words but in action. The human ships didn't slow down. They didn't negotiate. They didn't even bother with warning shots. The Prometheus fired first, launching something the Zephyrians had never seen before. Not energy weapons that could be deflected by shields, but solid projectiles accelerated to 20% the speed of light. The first Marauder cruiser's shields held for exactly 1.3 seconds before the kinetic weapon punched through them like tissue paper. The ship split in half, venting atmosphere and bodies into the cold vacuum. The entire Marauder fleet opened fire simultaneously, their plasma weapons painting space in brilliant greens and blues. The human ships didn't even attempt to dodge. Their own shields, powered by antimatter reactors, absorbed the impacts without strain. Then the humans revealed why they had brought 37 ships to fight 15. Each human vessel carried specialized weapons for different tactical scenarios. Some launched swarms of AI-guided missiles that pursued fleeing Marauder ships with relentless determination. Others deployed gravity weapons that literally crushed enemy vessels into compact balls of metal. A few used directed energy weapons that burned so hot they turned armor plating into plasma instantly. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted 8 minutes and 43 seconds. Vex and her crew watched in stunned silence as the entire Marauder fleet was systematically demolished. The humans didn't just defeat them. They annihilated them with a casualness that was more terrifying than any display of anger would have been. When the last Marauder ship tried to jump to hyperspace, 3 human vessels somehow predicted its exit point and were already waiting there. The fleeing ship emerged from its jump directly into a wall of railgun fire. As the debris field that had once been a conquering fleet drifted past the station, Captain Chen's image appeared on the main display. She looked remarkably ordinary for someone who had just commanded the complete destruction of 15 warships. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her expression was professionally neutral. She might have been discussing supply manifests rather than the aftermath of a massacre. Commander Vex, your station is secure. We're reading significant damage to your hull and life support systems. Permission to send engineering teams to assist with repairs. We also have medical personnel standing by if you have injured. Vex found her voice with difficulty. Captain, we are grateful, but we have no way to pay for such assistance. Our mining operation has been disrupted for cycles. We have nothing to offer warriors of your caliber. Chen's expression shifted to something that might have been confusion. Commander, you sent a distress call. We answered. There's no payment required for doing the right thing. My engineers will be there in 20 minutes. Please have someone meet them at your primary docking port. Someone who won't be too alarmed by human appearance. We tend to be a bit denser than most species. As the connection ended, Kree floated closer to his commander. His wings trembled as he spoke. What have we done? We called monsters to fight monsters, but what if they decide to stay? What if they're worse than the Marauders? Vex watched as several human shuttles launched from the Prometheus, heading toward their damaged station. Each shuttle was larger than a Zephyrian patrol craft and marked with symbols she didn't recognize. A red cross on white background, the word rescue in multiple languages. These monsters had come prepared not just for war but for saving lives. The price of salvation. The human engineering teams had been working for 6 hours when Vex finally gathered enough courage to visit them directly. She found them in the station's primary power generation facility, a place where the radiation levels would have killed a Zephyrian in minutes without protective suits. The humans wore nothing but their standard uniforms, their bodies naturally resistant to radiation levels that most species considered lethal. Chief Engineer Marcus Thompson stood nearly twice Vex's height, his broad shoulders barely fitting through doorways designed for the delicate Zephyrian frame. His skin, which Vex had learned was considered pale by human standards, still seemed impossibly dense and thick compared to her translucent epidermis. When he smiled at her approach, she tried not to flinch at the display of omnivorous teeth designed for tearing meat. Commander Vex, good timing. We've just finished replacing your primary power couplings. Had to fabricate some adapters to make our tech compatible with yours. But she'll hold steady now. Should actually be about 30% more efficient than your original setup. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. Another reminder that humans had evolved on a world where they needed to communicate over the sound of storms and predators. Vex's wings fluttered, a sign of nervousness her species couldn't control. "Your efficiency is remarkable, Chief Thompson. But I must ask, why do your people carry such extensive repair equipment on warships?" Thompson's expression grew thoughtful as he wiped his hands on a cloth that would have been too rough for Zephyrian skin. "Well, Commander, here's the thing about humans. We're really good at breaking things. Got it down to an art form, you might say. But we learned a long time ago that if you're good at breaking things, you better be even better at fixing them. Every human military vessel carries full engineering facilities. Never know when you'll need to rebuild after a fight." A younger human, introduced as Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez, looked up from where she was welding a hull breach with her bare hands guiding the plasma torch. The heat that would have instantly incinerated a Zephyrian only made her sweat slightly. "Back home we have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We've got the power to level cities, so we have the responsibility to rebuild them too." Vex noticed something that had been bothering her since the humans arrived. "Your people seem so casual about violence, yet you immediately offered aid. This paradox troubles my understanding." Thompson set down his tools and leaned against a bulkhead, his weight making the metal groan slightly. "Commander, let me tell you something about Earth. Everything on our planet tries to kill us. The weather, the wildlife, diseases, natural disasters, even other humans for most of our history. We got very good at violence because we had to be. But here's what most species don't understand about us. We chose to be more than just survivors. We chose to be protectors," Rodriguez added while continuing her work. "Every human grows up hearing stories about heroes. Not just warriors, but people who saved others. Firefighters who run into burning buildings. Doctors who travel to plague zones. Coast Guard pilots who fly into hurricanes to rescue stranded sailors. We celebrate those who risk everything to help strangers." As if to emphasize this point, a communication came through from Captain Chen. "Commander Vex, we've detected life signs in the debris field. Looks like some marauders survived in emergency pods. We're retrieving them now for medical treatment and eventual trial. Just wanted you to know in case you were concerned." Vex's compound eyes widened in shock. "You're saving the marauders? The ones who tried to destroy us?" Chen's voice carried a tone of iron determination. "They'll face justice for their crimes, Commander. But we don't leave anyone to die in space if we can help it. That's not who we are." Over the next several days, Vex observed the humans with growing fascination and diminishing fear. She watched them work 20-hour shifts to repair systems, their endurance seemingly limitless by Zephyrian standards. She saw them carefully moderate their strength when handling delicate equipment. Conscious of their ability to accidentally destroy what they meant to fix, she observed them share their food with curious Zephyrian children, laughing when the youngsters recoiled from what humans considered mild spices, but would have been toxic to the miners. The real revelation came when she visited the medical bay where human doctors were treating injured Zephyrians. Dr. James Park, the chief medical officer from the Prometheus, was performing surgery on a miner who had been caught in an explosion. His hands, capable of bending steel, moved with precision that exceeded even Zephyrian surgeons. He had spent hours studying Zephyrian physiology to ensure he could help without causing harm. "Your species confuses me, Dr. Park." Vex watched through the observation window. "You evolved as predators, yet you heal. You have the power to destroy worlds, yet you choose to fix a single broken wing on a child. Why?" Dr. Park didn't look up from his work, his concentration absolute. "Because we can, Commander. Because having the ability to do something and not doing it when someone needs help goes against everything we believe in. We're not warriors because we love war. We're warriors because sometimes that's what it takes to protect those who can't protect themselves." On the 10th day, as the human fleet prepared to depart, Vex stood in the docking bay with Captain Chen. The repairs were complete. The station actually improved beyond its original specifications. The captured marauders were secured aboard a human prison transport, headed for trial in a system where rule of law still meant something. "Captain Chen, before you leave, I must know something. Our distress call could have been a trap. You came anyway with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Weren't you afraid?" Chen smiled, the expression somehow warm despite those predator teeth. "Commander, of course we were afraid. Fear keeps you sharp, but someone needed help and we could provide it. That overrides fear every time." She paused, looking out at the stars through the docking bay windows. "You know what Earth taught us? It taught us that the universe is dangerous, hostile, and uncaring. But it also taught us that we don't have to be. We can choose to be better. As the human fleet departed, Vex uploaded her report to the Galactic Council. Her conclusion would reshape how the galaxy viewed the Deathworlders from that day forward. The humans are indeed dangerous. They are capable of violence that defies comprehension. Their world has forged them into living weapons. But that is not what defines them. What defines them is what they choose to do with that power. They choose to answer distress calls. They choose to rebuild what others destroy. They choose to heal what others harm. They are warriors not because they must be, but because someone needs to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. The galaxy should not fear humans. The galaxy should be grateful they exist. The report spread across communication networks, reaching species who had lived in fear of the death world in the galactic arm's dark corner. Ships began to register their emergency beacons to include the forbidden frequency. Trading posts started learning human languages. Medical facilities requested human anatomical data to treat potential human patients. 6 months later, when pirates attacked a convoy of refugee ships fleeing a dying star, the emergency beacon went out on all frequencies, including the one that reached Earth. The pirates broke off their attack and fled the moment they detected human signatures approaching. They had heard the stories. They knew what happened to those who threatened the innocent when humans were listening. The humans had earned a new title across the galaxy. Not conquerors, not destroyers, not Deathworlders. They were called the Guardians. And somewhere in the void between stars, human ships continued their patrols, waiting for the next call for help, ready to show the galaxy that evolution on a death world had created something unexpected. Not monsters, but protectors. Not because they had to be, but because they chose to be. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When you send an SOS into the darkness, be careful what answers. It might be something far more powerful than you imagined. But if you're lucky, if you're very lucky, it might be exactly what you need. It might be human.